There's something about coming to the tropics. From the moment you arrive, you're immersed in the humidity. Everywhere you look, the foliage, the diversity, the colours, the textures, it's all just jumping out of the ground. But there's more to this landscape than meets the eye. This place here really does beat to a different drum.
Tonight on the Odyssey, growing a native garden the special way.
And presto, you've grown your own plants for nothing.
Abundant fresh herbs without any soil.
Herbs really are a lot of fun. Yeah!
And playtime at the Backyard Revolution.
I've been searching the high seas for one of the final features of our garden. And I think I've found it. What exactly is a garden? And what does it mean to different people?
For some, they have to be functional to grow food and be productive. For others, they're simply places of beauty designed to bring people together and create peace.
Today, I've come to a garden that does all this and more. Surrounding me is a garden that heals.
This is the amazing Flexible Learning Centre Gardens in the suburbs of Cairns, part of an outreach centre established by the Queensland Department of Education and Training that's using the power of plants to help kids that need a hand. This permaculture garden full of exotic edible plants was originally built to help kids with behavioural issues, but Cairns' growing migrant population is seeing its focus broaden.
It helps us remember the memories of Africa, because a lot of things they have in here, we have it in Africa, and it's just beautiful. Sometimes we take home and give it to our parents.
Jermaine and Riziki from Burundi came to the garden and found a little piece of Africa where they least expected.
So what was it like when you came to this garden and you saw familiar friends here?
We were pretty happy and excited because every single time we come here, we cook different food every single time. And we like sharing our culture to other people because we find it more interesting and we like learning from other people's cultures.
Yeah.
18-year-olds Surendra and Om from Bhutan arrived here with their families only a year ago, after spending almost their entire lives in refugee camps. Both boys have been through hardships that most of us can only imagine.
Where were you over there?
We were in refugee camp in Nepal.
Really?
Yeah.
For 17 years as a refugee in Nepal.
17 years in a refugee camp?
Yeah.
17?
Yeah, 17.
What was that like?
It was very terrible.
Terrible and scary life.
I don't want to be a refugee again.
With virtually no English skills and only weeks after arriving, Surendra and Om came to the centre to do a multimedia course with teacher Linda Saunders.
It is just the most amazing resource for these kids in so many ways.
But one look at the garden and their attention turned from computing to cooking as a world of plants they knew from their homelands appeared in front of their eyes.
Just to see their faces light up and show me a plant that I didn't even recognise and say, we grow this in our country and this is how we use it, and using it in a different way to the way that we would use it here. It was really exciting.
The boys began to use food from the garden to take home to their parents and to cook their favourite Bhutanese dishes to share with fellow students. And the computer course turned into a cook-off, which then turned into a cookbook.
This cookbook is a collection of recipes from around the world that's been put together by all the kids here. And what it does is it reflects the great connection between the garden, the kitchen, and the classroom. It's something that the kids should be really proud of.
Surendra and Om will soon finish school and begin their new lives, helped along by a surprising garden and the amazing plants that grow in it.
When I came here, I'm very, nervous and I'm surprised. And I think, Australia is like heaven. Yeah.
We have no any life in refugee camp, but nowadays I know how is life.
Yeah.
What is life? Now I know. It's okay.
But gardens like this don't just grow themselves. And the man behind it is permaculture expert Kim Cruz. So what's the plan of action for today?
Well, the plan is that we're going to be extending some of the weed barrier, Justin and I, with some of the perennial plants that we've got growing here.
The idea with a weed barrier is to grow plants so densely that any species you don't want can't get established. If you're trying this at your place, the best plants to use are ones that either clump or form a very thick ground cover. In the tropics, that means plants like cassava, arrowroot, bananas and tubers.
As you can see here, we've got that much sweet potato, thick ground cover here, so we're really closing up the space and not allowing those weeds to take a hold.
As much as this garden is about growing plants, its main priority is to help kids in need.
I got in trouble a lot and always got into fights, and now since I've been coming here, I've controlled my anger.
17-year-old Justin started volunteering with Kim a little over a year ago.
It's kept me, occupied, something to look forward to. And, it's a good experience for those who want to get into this kind of stuff.
Today, he's so passionate that he even comes here on weekends and in his spare time on holidays, sowing the seeds for a brighter future.
What an amazing image to see kids that have come from such different backgrounds here together, playing, brought here by this garden that's offering them a new life. Mention the word tropics, and most people immediately associate that with some idyllic island, coconut trees and ferns. But there's so much more. From the delicate to the dangerous. From tiny flowers to giant trees. After the break, I'll introduce you to a living legend to learn how you can find and grow native plants for nothing. Where do you start to look?
Well, I think for new people looking at the rainforest, they really should look for small seedlings and small plants.
"75 kilometres west of Cairns is the Wongabel State Forest, a tropical paradise and the ideal seed hunting ground for Peter Radke, the Indiana Jones of nursery owners.
Yeah, it's quite majestic, isn't it, to go in forests like this?
It's amazing.
Virgin rainforest, big trees, all the different leaf shapes and colours and so on.
For 30 years, Peter and his wife Anne have been searching these forests for hidden plant treasures.
How does it make you feel when you're in here?
Oh, look, it's like a bit religious, isn't it? You feel like going to church, really, isn't it?
The trick to finding new plants is to look for seedlings and fruits under established trees.
Because all the babies of this big tree will all be all around here.
So that's your trick.
That's our trick, yes.
Peter's spent his life in tropical forests, but for a southerner like me, this is a whole new world.
And what things do you look out for to be careful of?
Well, you've got to really watch out for stinging trees. And this is the stinger.
Oh. So what happens if this one
well, if that
touches you?
touches you, you will be complaining for months.
Months?
For months. Generally about 3 months. It will keep affecting you every time you go and have a shower. It'll annoy the hell out of you.
Really?
For at least 3 months. So you just don't touch it.
But while stinging trees at least are easy to see, this forest can get you in 1,000 ways.
What's the first step? How do
You just walked... Ooh, what's this one? Got me already.
Oh, that's a wait a while, a calamus. We've got about 10 or 8 or 10 species in the rainforest, and they have these long tentacles which have got really sharp thorns on them.
Get off.
They will grab onto you.
Get off. Peter has numerous government permits allowing him to collect from state forests and national parks. But if you're keen on collecting seeds on your own, avoid any Crown land and always ask permission from landowners if you're venturing onto private property. Pete, I feel like a real plant hunter walking through the forest with you.
Yeah, this is really beautiful. It's cool and it's not very hot, and it's amazing what you can find in this sort of rainforest. Oh, this is Aglaia sapindina. We'll collect this because it's a great bird plant, and for people who could then plant the plant and attract their birds with the fruit later on.
Oh, okay.
There's some of it's already fallen, and we can pick that up. And then here, Costa.
So there's my seeds to get started.
Yes, that's right.
30 years ago, Peter turned his passion for seed propagation into his career. Now, he owns Australia's largest tropical native nursery called Yaruga. Pete, the nursery's got a great feel about it.
Yeah, it's an oasis in the desert. It really is nice. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So far, Peter has introduced 1,200 species of tropical plants to horticulture, 10 of which have been completely new to science.
The plants that we wanted to grow from up here weren't available, so we went out and started collecting seeds and growing the plants, and then having a native plant nursery was sort of a fairly natural sort of thing to happen, I think.
The Yaruga nursery sells only native plants. They have one of the largest cutting sheds in the country and are industry leaders in high-tech propagation and cloning in this multi-million-dollar Yaruga tissue lab. I've never been into a tissue culture laboratory before, and having to put the hairnet and the shoe covers and the lab coats on, I feel like I'm entering a sci-fi movie. But it's not that scary. The lab here produces and researches plants for large-scale forestry, biofuel production and land rehabilitation. And they're capable of producing 1 million clone plants in a single month. What they can do is take any plant they like, which has the characteristics that they want, and multiply it in the laboratory. Ultimately, this lab is about copying the best of nature. And as high-tech as it seems, it still depends on the basics. Remember the seeds we collected? To propagate these Aglaia sapindina or Bodiara seeds, just wash the flesh off them and put them in some potting mix. Interestingly, there's no need to cover them, and in a few weeks, they should start to germinate. One thing I remember clearly from my childhood was that at any family gathering, my aunts, my great-aunts, my grandparents would always be exchanging plants, and they'd do it just by cuttings. So all they were actually doing was taking off some of the new plant material, which I've taken off this back house here, this aniseed myrtle. Cut the bottom 2 leaves off, like that. Then cut the remaining leaves back to about a half or a third. This reduces the amount of stress on your little seedling here. Once complete like that, drop it into your pot. Put a few in, that way you can be guaranteed if you get a few failures, you're going to get at least one. Then grab an empty plastic bottle like this, cut the bottom off it and put it over the top. That way you've got a glass house for nothing. Once it's watered, watch your plants over the next couple of weeks. When you start to see some signs that it's growing, you can undo the lid and that will slowly acclimatise the plants. Once there's definite growth, you can lift this off until they grow up and get settled, then put them into separate pots and presto, you've grown your own plants for nothing. What a great little project. 40 kilometres northwest of Cairns is the Village Herb Farm, a hydroponic oasis on the edge of the rainforest. Most people have heard of the term hydroponics, but wouldn't really understand what it means on the ground. The funny thing is, it's not as complicated
as it sounds.
Literally translated, hydroponics means working water. Plants are grown without soil and are fed by a specific mix of liquid nutrients.
Hello there. How you going?
Hi.
Linda, is it?
Nice to meet you.
I'm Neil. Neil, good to meet you too.
Neil and Linda arrived in Australia 5 years ago from the UK via Hong Kong to start a new life. Neither of them knew anything about farming, but have still managed to turn a simple tree change into a thriving business.
Herbs.
Definitely. That's the business we're in. Not that you're seeing it right here, but down here we have the hydroponic facility. Should we take you for a walk down?
Yeah, let's have a look.
OK.
Despite only having half an acre to work with, Neil and Linda produce 5 tonnes of herbs here a year, all courtesy of this unique method of agriculture.
And it's basically got lots of minerals, and that will naturally leach into the plants.
Holding tanks cycle nutrient mix into grow beds for 12 hours a day.
It comes up to the top, gravity will carry it back to the tank for us, and it again pumps itself through.
The nutrient mix is made up of essential mineral compounds. Because plants are fed directly to their roots, hydroponics can produce up to 10 times more plant matter than conventional growing.
You can see this is where we've actually harvested. With garlic chives, we simply take it, cut it, it'll grow back up again. I wish all herbs grew as quickly as this one. Garlic chives is the best. These guys will recover within a 10-day period.
10 days?
Yeah.
The thing I love most about coming to a new landscape is having a look around and reading the features. In this case, it's beautiful north-facing, so they get all the sunlight that they need. It's a slope. For some other operations would be useless. In this case, they can use the hill to allow the water to flow under gravity, get caught down the bottom in a dam, pump it back up.
To keep tropical pests at bay, Linda favours holistic approaches like integrated pest management, a way of mixing plants, not chemicals, to deter insects.
Integrated pest management sounds like a little bit of a complicated term, but it's something that we all can use on our gardens at home. Now, on this commercial farm, Linda and Neil are using something as simple as marigolds planted at the end of each of their propagation beds. What they do is twofold. First of all, they create a barrier which repels the bad insects. They don't like the smell, they come here, they move on. Secondly, the flowers attract the good insects, which can then go out amongst the beds and control the baddies.
Linda and Neil grow 26 different types of herbs, which are shipped off to supermarkets all over far north Queensland. And after the break, I'll show you how to grow herbs like this at your place.
This could be a great way to add herbs and spice to your life.
Plus the perfect sandpit for the backyard revolution.
All that's missing are some kids. Hey, here we go.
Ever wanted to grow abundant fresh herbs like this, but don't have a garden to put them in? Well, here's an awesome way to do it that's easy, efficient, and definitely won't break the bank.
Setting up a hydroponic system at home is really quite simple, and you don't have to get too technical. You can put it together using a whole lot of recycled materials and make it a little bit of a project for the weekend or during the school holidays even.
All you need is something to act as a tank for the nutrient mix, which you can get from your nursery. A pump, some suitable gravel like quinquin, a box or tray, and a few pieces of spare hose. The system simply mimics a larger hydroponics setup, taking nutrient mix from a reservoir and pumping it into a growing medium where it will feed our plants. First up, connect your irrigation system. We're using some recycled polypipe and some old garden hose. Fill your tray with quinquin and make sure you elevate one end so that the system can drain. Clamp your poly in place with some old wire, put in your plants, and you're ready for business. We're using a mix of chilli, sage, parsley and chives. Almost any small plant will take, but you need to shake off as much loose soil as possible if you're pulling them out of pots. Run the pump for 12 hours a day and keep it in sunshine, and you'll be feasting on fresh herbs before you know it.
The beauty of a hydroponic system is that it's a really efficient way of growing herbs. So for people that don't have a garden or very much space, this could be a great way to add herbs and spice to your life. This week on the Backyard Revolution, I'm going to show you how you can turn an unused corner of your backyard into a playground paradise. So far at the Backyard Revolution, we've added water tanks, veggie beds, chickens, and a whole stack of other environmentally friendly features, creating a garden that doesn't just look good, but will reduce the Tembaleschi carbon footprint and give them masses of fresh food as well. Now, this boat here is going to form the centrepiece of what's going to be a playground for the kids, particularly the little kids, because it's going to sit here like that as our feature, but around it, we're going to build a sand pit so the kids can play in the boat, climb out here. There'll be rocks surrounding the sand pit. And the beauty of the sand pit, it will also double as our absorption trench, catching any drainage that runs off the hard surfaces down here to slowly absorb back into the ground. This is where we start to play in the garden. My whole plan for this garden has been to reset ground levels so that rainwater drains towards this corner. Normally, I'd use this water to fill a pond, but the Tembaleskis are getting something special. With 3 children under 5 here at the Tembaleschi household, it's not really a safe option to have a pond here in the backyard. So what we're doing is making an absorption pit with a sand pit over the top. But when the kids are older, it's easy enough to take the absorption tanks out, remove the sand, put a liner in, and hey presto, you've got a pond with your boat sticking in over the top of it. It'll still look great. Absorption tanks are easy to put together using these purpose-built plastic frames lined with geofabric. With the absorption tank in the ground, cover the whole pit up with sand to help peripheral drainage, and you're ready to start building. This is the first part of our sand pit edge. I'm using these hardwood sleepers to match up with our chicken coop and our planter beds. And this particular sleeper I like because look at it, it's got this natural notch in it. It's got this beautiful edge, just gives it something different. Be careful lining up your sleepers to make sure you get them square. And with any hardwood like this, pre-drill the holes for nails and screws so you can get them in cleanly and don't get any splits in the timber. Quick little tip for extending your drill life. Once you've finished drilling something, have an old offcut of timber or something around you to put the drill on. If you put it down in the dirt when it's still spinning, it sucks dirt in there and it'll wreck your drill in no time. Line your base with geofabric to stop the sand mixing with your soil and you're ready to start filling. To figure out how much sand you're going to use, simply multiply the depth, width and length of your pit to get an approximate volume in cubic metres. For a sand pit this size, that's 1800 by 1600 by about 400, we're using a little over a cubic metre of sand. You tip it. Oh, good job. Along the back of our fence line here, I'm going with an avocado hedge. Strange as it may seem, this variety, avocado wurtz, only grows to about 2 to 2.5 metres. If you keep it down, it'll mean that we'll have beautiful fresh avocados hanging along the fence line, ready for the picking. Well, all our plants are installed, our boat's shipwrecked in the sand pit. We're just putting this final touch of the slippery dip in the corner. What do you reckon, Kane? That's good? That's about it? All that's missing are some kids. Hey, here we go. Hope you've enjoyed the show. That's it from the Backyard Revolution for this week. We'll see you next time. Guys, what do you think? Next week on the Odyssey, a journey to the bazaar. OK, Spike, I'm going to go and have a quiet word to the people that count. Asian veggies, garden fresh and chemical free. Have a look at this tricky bit of work. This is a bitter melon, or fouquois, and how to get creative at the Backyard Revolution. It's really just like the fuselage of a jumbo jet.